Big time fight coming up this weekend. Women's bantamweight action. We have Irene Aldana taking on Yana Kunitskaya. And Matt, for Yana Kunitskaya, it's a nice little win streak coming into this one. She's 4-1 in her last 5. She's won her last 2 fights going back to last year. One over Yulia Stoliarenko in just a really weird fight. And then one over Ketlin Vieira in just a weird fight. And both these women having wins over the Brazilian Vieira. If you look at it for Irene Aldana, again, 3-2 in her last 5. We now have our first Mexican champion in the UFC in Brandon Moreno. But for a lot of people, they assumed, and well, wrongly, that Irene Aldana would be the first Mexican champ, especially after she beat Ketlin Vieira and knocked her out so quick about a year and a half ago, or a little bit over that. But her last time out was 8 months ago. She fought Holly Holm. She kind of got beat pillar to post. It was like a y'all must have forgot for Holly Holm in that fight.
Yeah, Irene Aldana just didn't look great in that performance. And it's weird because I'm going to throw another name who was known for a really big highlight. That's kind of what they're known for. Look at Joaquin Buckley, for instance. He has a weird career, a couple fights, and then, okay, wow, you're known for this great knockout. And that's what people know you for. You're expected to kind of replicate that or do something similar every single time you go out there. And for Joaquin Buckley, listen, he had that great win over Jordan Wright and then that really bad loss to Kiriko. So we don't really know what we're going to get. But for Irene Aldana, it's weird. You kind of have her whole career. Then she has this massive posterization, if you will, that beautiful knockout over Ketlin Vieira. And then people really start believing in her to the point where it's like, hey, you should fight Amanda Nunes next. And I'm pretty quick to buy into hype. I can openly admit that. But even I was like, hey guys, the Irene Aldana hype is a little bit too high. And I remember saying going into that Holly Holm fight, like, hey, I know we're all excited about her boxing, but now she's fighting someone who that's like what she does. That's all she does is kickbox and box. And what we saw in that fight was that, okay, when Irene Aldana does fight the upper echelon strikers, I'm going to throw Jermaine Durandamy in there as well. I know the matchup hasn't been made yet, but just stylistically, we can assume. For Aldana, she does struggle against people who throw straight shots down the middle, who can beat her to the punch, and she does struggle against the takedown. That's the one thing that I never really expected out of Aldana. Like, she does have really good forward pressure, she has great volume herself, but when you do look at yourself as one of those top-tier boxers, then fine, you can get out-wrestled. But the fact that in that Holly Holm fight, she got out-struck by Holly Holm and out-grappled by Holly Holm, it just really hurt her stock in my eyes, and this was someone who didn't have a lot of stock in her to begin with. You had a massive opportunity against Holly Holm, who was a fighter kind of, is she on the back 9 of her career? She's on, I don't know, weird waters, to say the least.
Putting green.
Yeah, okay, yeah, she's on the putting green. No one really knows what hole she's on, but Holly Holm is definitely at the later end of her career, and a lot of people felt like that fight was going to be this massive springboard for Aldana. You have the younger striker up against sort of, I guess, Aldana 1.0, if you will, or at least that's how the fight was being billed, but you saw Holly Holm, like you had said, y'all must have forgot, went out there and just kept on beating Irene Aldana to the punch, and that was the thing. Aldana could never get her combinations going because she could never get her jab going, and with Aldana, everything relies on, okay, I'm going to go jab, right, and then hook, or jab, and then set up my other attacks from that. She's a fighter who does need to get going downhill, kind of like Tim Means, but the problem is she kind of needs the jab before she can go downhill. And against someone like Kunitskaya, who, listen, I can't go out there and tell you that Kunitskaya is great with her kicks, she's great with her punches, but she is very well-rounded, and she is a fighter who's not afraid to go into the clinch. She's not afraid to go for the takedown. She knows that she's well-rounded, and she can really weaponize that to great effect. And that's the really cool thing about Yana Kunitskaya, that's been the really cool thing about her career projection. Because for Kunitskaya, we knew her as, okay, you were the lamb being slaughtered against Chris Cyborg.
You just kept fighting Tanya Evinger before that?
Exactly. So you fight Tanya Evinger for what seems like 3 years, and then you fight Chris Cyborg, who we all kind of knew what was going to happen in that fight, but she kind of, yeah, she took her back, and a lot of people were excited. Then she went on a really nice streak. With Irina, goodness, I keep on mixing their names up. With Yana Kunitskaya, I really feel like we kind of know her ceiling. We know that against a wrestler, she's going to be able to keep the fight on the feet, and against a striker, she's going to go for the takedown. With Irene Aldana, she's just going to keep on striking, and that's what worries me in this fight. Can just her striking get her by the multifaceted attack of Yana Kunitskaya? I don't really know, and that's what makes this fight so fun.
It's tricky, too, with Irene Aldana, because we've never really seen her takedown defense tested so much by these contenders, because Raquel Pennington was able to get a takedown. And I'm looking at the numbers, that's it. Until the Holly Holm fight. Holm went 5 of 14, and if you look at the total number, 84% takedown defense for Aldana. It might come as a surprise if you're really trying to knock her takedown defense. And for Yana Kunitskaya, you're right. She can mix it up. She's positive in terms of her strike differential, in terms of her takedowns. She's a little bit more active with the takedowns. And we did see, again, a really weird fighter last time out there against Ketlen Vieira. The tried and true telling method of this fight, Irene Aldana has a negative strike differential. She lands 5.52 significant strikes per minute. She absorbs 5.97. Yana Kunitskaya, 4.22 to 2.62. Better numbers. And with Aldana, it's at a lower percentage in terms of accuracy. 38% to Kunitskaya's 57%. Again, she is so good at pawing that jab that a lot of those are going to miss or they're going to hit the guard. And it's always tricky to tell what actually scores and what doesn't. But when you're busy like that, it will tend to score with the judges. Like, it's hard not to agree that
Rena Moroz went on quite a streak just doing it.
And the other thing with Irene Aldana, if you look at it for her overall body of work, 2 fight of the nights, one in her debut against Leslie Smith, one against Lucia Pudzilova, performance of the night bonus when she did end up fighting Ketlen Vieira to get that win. For Yana Kunitskaya, no bonuses so far in the UFC, but again, a former Invicta champ in this one. So it is a tricky fight if you're trying to figure out who's going to win this one. So for me, I do keep it off my card, but the odds have me intrigued. Aldana open to minus 125. She's a minus 119 favorite. Kunitskaya open to plus 105. She's a minus 104 right now. A slight underdog. If you have a look over on Topology, 1,378 total votes. 59% Aldana with 82% having her to win by decision. For Kunitskaya, 41% of the overall vote, 89% for her to win by decision. I would probably take the over in this one. If I made that the official pick, that might even end up on the Fight Night Picks kick parlay if I didn't retire it last weekend. So I guess stay tuned for that one on Saturday, 2 hours before the prelims. But I have a hard time with this one, Matt. What are you thinking?
Personally, I do like Yana Kunitskaya. We've seen Irene Aldana. If you do just strike with her, you can beat her. And that's the thing she's supposed to be great at. Like, even go back to her UFC debut against Leslie Smith. And listen, Leslie Smith is a really good fighter. But when I think of Irene Aldana currently, it's a lot of what I think about with Leslie Smith. It's just a high-volume, boxing-heavy fighter. But the problem is Aldana did show that the takedown is such a problem, especially against a fighter like Holly Holm. I think Holly Holm is an okay grappler. She definitely showed that against Megan Anderson. But I know Yana Kunitskaya is at least a good grappler. And she has one of the best, I guess, life training partners in Thiago Santos going. So I guess not for that reason, but for many others. I do like Yana Kunitskaya in this fight.
I like the well-roundedness of Kunitskaya as well. And as a decent little underdog and the line keeps moving, I've got Kunitskaya here. Let us know down below in the comments section. You going with Russia's own or Mexico's own? For us, we're going with Kunitskaya in this one. I absolutely love this main card, Matt. There's 3 big fights left. Hardy's taking on Tuivasa. Then you have Burns and Wonderboy, and then in the main event, the 3rd installment of the trilogy. You're not going to want to miss any of it. So keep locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say.
Let's get into it.